Silicon Valley, technology, art, green, and sustainability.
Welcome to Silicon Valley Tech, Art, Green, and Sustainability. Today I'm honored to have a returning guest with me from Trilliant Technology, Sonita, and you're head of global marketing?
Yes.
Is that the correct title?
Yes, that is correct title.
And you were here a couple years ago, and we talked about smart grid, and we had Christina Herzog, who has the smart grid dictionary, which we actually have a copy of that here we can show people later. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and let's pull up the first slide too. We'll reminisce here with the last time you came on the show. There we all are. What a good-looking group of gals. You can take that down. So tell us again about yourself and what's going on.
Sure. First of all, thanks so much for having me back on the show. It's so good to be here. Well, I guess a little bit about myself. Well, in general, I love the intersection of technology, business, and policy, and I think my background reflects that. First slide, maybe.
Yeah, let's take the first slide, and I think you've got. We could put this up on the web for people to see too, because they probably won't be able to see this real close.
Sure, definitely. And so I think both my educational and also professional background, I think, reflects that love that I have, because I got bachelor's and master's in engineering, but also I got an MBA for the business side of it. And from a professional perspective, my background is pretty diverse as well. I've done management consulting, worked for Fortune 200 companies, and also for a few venture-backed Silicon Valley technology companies. Actually started in my career by founding my own online game company right after college, and did that for a few years and sold it to one of the bigger competitors eventually. And after that, I was kind of like thinking, what's next, and wasn't really sure what I wanted, wasn't really sure the exact industry, but I had this kind of guiding principle that, again, I wanted to work in an area that's an intersection of technology, business, and policy, and also contributing something more to society. And as such, smart grid, green technology seem to be kind of fitting with like this guiding principle, and that's really kind of like how I got started, maybe about 8 to 10 years ago in this industry.
And was that before or after you got your master's?
That was actually after. So so that was it was actually in graduate school that I started kind of thinking about what's next, and that's really what got me into green technology and smart grid.
So let's revisit a question from a while ago. Can you tell us about smart grid and what it is, why we need it? And we could probably pull up the third slide now too, which may have a little example we can look at.
Sure, that's a great question, Heather. But I think before I answer what the smart grid is, it's always good to like take a step back and just paint a little bit context as to like where we are as a society and why we need it. So. Do you know how old our electric grid today is?
I think I remember, but you tell us. It's very old.
It is quite old. So it was built in the 1890s, and it hasn't really been modernized for more than 100 years.
And that's probably before our parents were even born.
Oh, probably, right? Yeah. It was like
so
in the
probably even before your grandparents were born.
Well, I mean, over the years, of course, they've done little improvements here and there, but it has really not been modernized in order to be able to tackle the challenges of the 21st century where we are in today. So, as we enter the 21st century, we as a society are faced with a lot of energy challenges, and some of them include limited supply, increasing demand, aging infrastructure, of course, greenhouse gas emissions constraints, and the need to be able to integrate more renewables, variable renewables like solar and wind onto the grid, and also the need to be able to deal with the emerging proliferation of distributed energy, things like rooftop solars, electric vehicles, energy storage, smart appliances, and so on and so forth.
Let's bring that other slide up too, the slide 4 right now. So this, and I can't, tell me what this slide is really quick.
Sure, I mean, and I think it is a little bit too small. So basically, when people ask me, what is the smart grid then? Well, there are many definitions. I think it depends on who you ask. But in our definition, in its simplest term, it's really the layering of intelligence across our whole energy value chain. So from the generation to transmission to distribution to the meter where the demand is at our homes and buildings, and all the way to beyond the meter, which is inside our homes and buildings, and all the way to distributed energy resources like solar on our rooftops, electric vehicles in our garage, and smart appliances in our homes and buildings. So traditionally,
and it said enabling more. The title was enabling more smart energy. Is that what it said?
Basically, smart grid enables a more sustainable energy future, because traditionally our energy infrastructure has been a one-way system where energy is generated as a centralized plant and then pushed one way to where the demand is without much visibility or communications between demand and supply, resulting in a lot of waste and inefficiencies. But with the advent of smart grid, there will be these two-way communications and intelligence between supply and demand, which results in better energy efficiency and just a much more balanced energy system,
So tell me how your company fits in with the smart grid and how it fits into all this.
Sure. First of all, want to kind of share who Trilliant is. So we are a smart grid platform company, that enabling technology that enable that two-way communications between our energy supply and our energy demand. We're based here in Silicon Valley, but we have presence, all over the world. So across North America, in Asia, in Europe, and in Latin America. So given that we're a Silicon Valley company, of course, our innovation DNA pretty strong, and we are proud to have won patents and also several recognition. We're venture backed, so we have raised about $100 million from both strategic partners like General Electric and ABB, and also from more traditional venture capital firms, both in Silicon Valley and also abroad from Europe and Asia.
So let's bring the slide 5 up here. And so does this tell you about some of your partners around the world then?
Exactly. So this is more like a background of who Trilliant is. Like what I've shared with you, we have won all of these awards. These are some of our partners, and on the right hand side is some of our investors. GE, ABB are strategics, and the others are venture capital firms based here in Silicon Valley and also from Asia and from Europe. And again, we provide the smart grid platform that enables that two-way communications between our energy supply and demand.
It's huge. It's a huge thing you do, and you work a lot overseas.
We do have customers all over the world. So here in North America, of course, in Canada, in the U.S., but also in Europe and Asia and Latin America.
So you get to go all over the place. Let's pull up the other slide too, which is slide 6. And this slide here.
Again, on this slide, then you can see what we do. So as I've mentioned, we have this thing we call the Trilliant Smart Grid Platform. And that platform consists of networking technology to network all the devices, different energy devices. It has a software component, again, to manage the devices on the network. And it also has professional services. We offer professional services like network design. I know you can hardly see it, but anyway.
I actually have to put my glasses on to see it, but I can see it now.
The whole kind of idea is to really provide these two-way communications and intelligence between the supply and the demand and enable all kinds of new energy applications.
So it's a smart connect between all of these items, which before it was someone would have to visit and then, right?
Exactly. So
and
now
then manually do things.
Yes. So actually, one of the smart grid technology that I think a lot of people have heard, is smart meters. So smart meters, not the same as smart grid, but it's one application of the smart grid. So before smart meters, actually a lot of our energy bills are estimated. But of course, after smart meters, it's automated, and it's more accurate because it's really based on usage rather than based on an estimate that the utility makes.
And I'm getting off subject here, but that's more of at a home owner level, the smart meter.
Yes, yes.
So the smart grid, can you explain any progresses in it in the last few years since you came on the show? Things have changed a little bit, and again, I know you travel all over the world with clients, and so you get to see, and you've gone to some fabulous conventions about it. So we can talk about that later too. But tell us about that.
Yeah, definitely. So actually, I would like to answer that from a global perspective.